Jasodānandana Brajajanaranjana Jasodānandana Brajajanaranjana. Krishna sadamupagate dharma-jnana divishaha kalo nashtadrishamesha puranaka adunuditaha. Anye cha devarṣi-brahmarṣi-varyā rājarṣi-varyā aruṇ-ādayaś nānārṣeya-pravarān sametān nānārṣeya-pravarān sametān abhyarcya rājā śirasā vavande anye devarṣi-brahmarṣi-varyā rājarṣi-varyā aruṇādayaś nānārṣeya-pravarān sametān abhyarcya rājā śirasā vavande. Please chant. Vaishnavis, anye, many others, cha, also, devarṣi, saintly demigods, brahmarṣi, saintly brahmins, varyā, topmost, rājarṣi-varyā, topmost saintly kings, aruṇa-ādayaḥ, a special rank of rājarṣis, cha, and nānā, many others, ārṣeya-pravarān, chief amongst the dynasties of the sages, sametān, assembled together, abhyarcya, by worshipping rājā, the emperor, śirasā, bowed down his head to the ground, vavande, welcomed. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. There were also many other saintly demigods, kings, and special royal orders called aruṇādayas, a special rank of rājarṣis, from different dynasties of sages. When they all assembled together to meet Emperor Parīkṣit, he received them properly and bowed his head to the ground. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The system of bowing the head to the ground to show respect to superiors is an excellent etiquette which obliges the honored guest deep into the heart. Even the first great offender is excused simply by this process. And Maharaj Parīkṣit, although honored by all the rishis and kings, welcomed all the big men in that humble etiquette in order to be excused from any offense. Generally, at the last stage of one's life, this humble method is adopted by every sensible man in order to be excused before departure. In this way, Maharaj Parīkṣit implored everyone's goodwill for going back home, back to Godhead. Mukham karadi vachalam pangam langai te girim jat kripa tabaham mandai Shri Gurum dinatarinam. Anye cha devarṣi-brahmarṣi rājarṣi. Devarshi, different saintly demigods, were present there on the banks of Mahaganga at Hastinapur in order to participate in the hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam spoken by Srila Shukdev Goswami to Parīkṣit Maharaj. So many highly qualified sages, rājarṣis, brahmarṣis. Now the king, Parīkṣit, he lowers his head, offers his head to the ground. Shiro rishikesha pad abhibandane. As described, the great King Ambarish used the various limbs of his body Tat bringa sparsha angamani, embraces the devotees with his arms. Srimat tulasha rashanam tad arpite, he tastes the tulasi leaves, rasanam tam arpite, which have been offered to the lotus feet of the Lord. Shiro rishikesha pad abhibandane, Shiro rishikesha pad abhibandane. He offers his head, he places his head at the lotus feet of the Lord, and this way is the use of the head. Bhavamad bhakta madhyaji mam namaskuru. Bhavamad bhakta, become my devotee. Madhyaji, worship me. Mam namaskuru, bow down to me. The materialists, they claim that, oh, why he's so demanding? Why are you so demanding? He should be a little detached. Why is he expecting respect? Bow down to me, demanding. No, this is the kindness of the Lord, that if you can just bow down to me, if you can't do anything else, just bow down to me, and you will get my mercy. In Sri Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Nectar Devotion commentary by Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada is quoting from Padma Purana, explaining that in Choishati Sadhananga, 64 items of devotional service, and the Rupa Goswami, he elaborates, he enumerates the glories of what we may consider insignificant items of sadhana bhakti, just by bowing down in the temple, bowing one's head, putting one's head on the ground, and all the sins leave one's body. When one gets up, one leaves all the sins behind, just by bowing down in the temple of the Lord, bowing down. It is. I can remember the first time I bowed down to the Lord. First time. It's a remarkable thing, particularly in the foreign countries. They don't bow down. They don't bow down to anybody. They don't even bow down to God. They kind of go half, a little bit of a bow. A little bit, on one knee, a little bit. But not the full Ashtanga Pranati Dandavat Pranam with 8 limbs. When you put your flat, Dandavat Pranam means Dandabat, like a stick. Like a stick. At least that means when you're down, you should be laid out like a stick. At least the Prabhus and the ladies, the Shashtanga Pranam with 6 limbs. They don't have to lie down flat. So like a stick, it doesn't actually mean falling like a stick. We were serving one prasadam one time, one sannyasi, Melbourne, Mahaprabhu Mandir, serving prasadam. One devotee, as sannyasi happened to be the guru of one brahmachari. A brahmachari came in, he was bringing some items to offer. When he saw his beloved, the spiritual master taking prasad, he paid the dandavat pranam and fell down just like a stick. But he thought that meant that you stand up and you fall down. You fall down like a boom, like a stick. He thought that meant like falling down straight, boom. And that it was wooden, not marble, like in the tropical countries you have marble. There, wooden floor, wooden. On pylon, buildings are made on pylons, wooden floor. So he fell down, boom, hit the ground. The whole room vibrated. Maharaja's dal, it spilt everywhere. Boom. Doesn't necessarily mean bang like a stick, but when you're down, then you should be straight like a stick. When you're down. And Prabhupada's mentioning it obliges. We experience when someone offers obeisances, you become obliged. You cannot just ignore that. You become obliged. You become obliged. And in this case, in the case of superior and junior, the obligation is that one will show mercy. One will be inclined to give mercy. One will be inclined. So this is the secret. This is the secret. Mantra Guru, Ajota Shiga Guru, gone. Tar Chorane Age Kariya Bondon. I fall down at the feet. Bondon, fall down, offer prayers to feet. And this is not an easy thing to do. As we mentioned, in the Western countries, the materialists, it's very difficult. They wouldn't do that. A false ego is too big. False ego is too big. It would not bow down. Especially lie down and flat on the road and put one's feet. When Thakur Haridas arrived first in Jagannath Puri, Mahaprabhu's associates, the news had been sent to Navadip that Gauchandra had returned from the South Indian tour. And Kala Krishna Das, he sent the message. And immediately, under the tour guide, Shivananda Shain, all the Mahaprabhu Antaranga Bhaktagan from Navadip Dham, they arrived in Jagannath Puri. They journeyed to Jagannath Puri. Gauda Hoite, Vaishnava, Ashiyachin, Duishata, Mahaprabhu, Bhakta Shab, Mahabhagavata. They're announced by Gopinathacharya to the king. 200 devotees have come from Bengal. And they're waiting on the banks of Narendra Sarovar. Please arrange their accommodation and prasadam. Mahaprabhu, Bhakta Shab, Mahabhagavata. There are all devotees of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, greatly advanced in devotional service. And then the king, he asked Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, you tell me, one after another, who are these associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? And Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he lists all of the devotees. 20, 30 devotees' names are mentioned there as they're arriving in Jagannath Puri. Mahaprabhu, and then eventually they come to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu asks, Haridas Kotai, where is Haridas Thakur? This is quite some time had passed since the devotees had arrived and come to Mahaprabhu and all being introduced. Mahaprabhu asks, where is Haridas? He's still on the road, laying down. He's still laying down on the road. He hasn't even gotten up from paying obeisances. He's still lying down there. Haridas is there. He's lying down on the road. Still hasn't gotten up. And he was disinclined to come close to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was near the Jagannath temple, for fear. What if one of the servants of Lord Jagannath was to touch me? And what an offense that would be at the lotus feet of Lord Jagannath. So therefore, I will not go close to the temple. You give me one place nearby where I can perform Tin Lokkanam Bhajan, 3 lakhs chanting. So he was lying down on the road, and such an acharya, such an exalted person, the tendency to offer obeisances, to place one's head. And in this case, Haridas Thakur, he wouldn't even get up. So the point here is that many people, many great qualified sages were had come. Sometimes it is asked about the different topics in Srimad Bhagavatam. It is Amal Purana, spotless Purana, whereas the Dharma Projita Kaitav Dharma, the Vedic rituals for increasing your enjoyment in this world, they are projita, they're rejected in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Dharma Projita Kaitav Atra Parama. And here the ultimate Parama Dharma is explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam. However, we see that the topics of Karma Yoga, of Varnashram Dharma, of Jnana Yoga, of liberation, which may not be directly parts of Shuddha Bhakti, but these topics are also discussed in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Varnashram Dharma is discussed, Jnana Yoga, liberation, Ashtanga Yoga, these topics are discussed in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And comments, our acharyas comment, because various brahmarshis, devarṣis, rājarṣis were present there. They may not have all been on the level of Shuddha Bhakti, Sravan Kirtan, and simply in the consciousness of serving the Lord, but by good fortune they came to that place to associate and participate in the extraordinary event of the emperor of the world who's preparing to leave his body. So many, you could say, from different organizations. We might say that many people came to our event. They weren't all from ISKCON, they're from different organizations. But better that they come. So in this way, the different topics of Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, Varnashram Dharma, Devata, Upasana, all of these topics are also touched on in the Srimad Bhagavatam, considering the variety of the audience. And Prabhupada comments here that it's self-disclosure, it's a self-disclosure. We heard that Prabhupada, he would, in his final lila, Srila Prabhupada, in his final lila, he would, his various contemporaries, generally at the last stage of one's life, this humble method is adopted by every sensible man in order to be excused before departure. So in this mood, Parīkṣit Maharaj, he's paying respects and seeking forgiveness for behavior which he may have inadvertently. Prabhupada similarly, when his godbrothers visited Prabhupada in his final pastimes, and his peers, many sannyasis, the disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, they came to Srila Prabhupada, and Prabhupada, he begged forgiveness from his godbrothers for offenses that he may have inadvertently performed. And of course his godbrothers, they all mentioned that the Swami Maharaj, there was certainly no offense. But in the organization of the mission, sometimes the interactions are assertive. One has to be assertive to protect the interests of the mission and the expansion of the Krishna consciousness movement. One occasionally has to act in an assertive way and assert one's agenda, preferential to others' agenda. So in this way, in the leadership responsibility, there may be some feelings that people felt. So just in case, Prabhupada, just in case I have offended. And Prabhupada was in fact we heard that Prabhupada, he sent devotees to Prabhupada was in Vrindavan, but he sent devotees in Navadip to all of the Gaudiya missions. In Prabhupada's final weeks, he sent disciples to all the Gaudiya institutes in Navadip with gifts and on behalf of their guru, seeking forgiveness for any offenses that I may have performed in the preaching work for Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada quotes a little in that, we'll read a little in the next verse. He says, this whole topic of showing respect, seeking forgiveness at the final stage of one's life in case of any offense. Prabhupada says in the next purport, he says, Any decision, however important, should be confirmed by some authority. So that's Prabhupada's mentioning that as a principle. Any decision, that means for everybody. It doesn't just say, except if you're the GBC or exalted position in the movement, then you don't need to have confirmation, you're authorized. No, it's everybody. Any decision should be confirmed. Now, we see in several occasions where Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu made major decisions after consulting with his students and disciples, and changed the plan completely as a result of their consultation. When Gauranga was desiring to go to Vrindavan, in fact, even at the time of initiation in Gaya Dham, at that time Mahaprabhu left his students and left in the middle of the night to go to Vrindavan. And a voice in the sky announced that, no, you cannot go to Vrindavan now. There's too much you have to return to Mayapur. And Panchatattva has to be inaugurated, Shankirtan in the house of Srivas Thakur, Jagai Madai, Dinahin Jota Chilo Hariname Utharilo Tar Shaki Jagai Madhai. The evidence that even the most sinful, the most degraded can be delivered simply by chanting the holy name. The evidence has to be established by delivering Jagai Madhai. Nityananda, Haridas Thakur, they have to be given the order to preach Shankirtan. All of these things were required. So Mahaprabhu, didn't go to Vrindavan at the time of initiation. However, he was always meditating on Vrindavan. And after taking sannyas, delivering Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Magh, Chaitra, Vaishak, Bhadra, Mahaprabhu took sannyas in the Magh Mash. And Falgun Mash, he journeyed to Jagannath Puri. Bhadra, he delivered Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, and Vaishak month he left for South Indian tour. So after only 4 months after taking sannyas, even though he was, the plan was to Vrindavan and then decided Jagannath Puri, he quickly left Jagannath Puri for touring South India. We've just been fortunate to come back, Kurma Kshetra, the very first place where Mahaprabhu Jari Dekha Tarikaha Krishna Upadesh Amaragai Guru Hong Tara Desh, just near Visakhapatnam. Last few days we visited. The first place Mahaprabhu began his preaching. We went there, and before the Pujari of Kurma Dev, the only deity of Kurma on the planet, Kurma Dev, we went, took darshan, and the Pujari seeing us and considering us followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, just seeing us, he considered us followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And the Pujari immediately exclaimed in great exultation, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu delivered Vasudev the leper at this place. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu delivered Vasudev the leper. So he went immediately on the South Indian tour and then returned to Jagannath Puri. And then at that time he began again to explain, I want to go to Vrindavan, but Ramananda Roy, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Nityananda Prabhu, the Mahaprabhu's associates in Jagannath Puri, they did not allow him. They did not give, even though he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, without his permission, he wouldn't leave. Another example, consultation. Not just deciding on his own, no, without the permission, and they're not giving, and so he wouldn't leave. In 2 years, they kept him in Jagannath Puri. Of course, many wonderful pastimes were performed during that period for our benefit, so that we can wander through the transcendental abode of Jagannath Puri, where every few meters you'll come to another extraordinary tirtha sthān where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu performed his transcendental pastimes. Gaudamar je shabashtan korela brahmana range she shabashtan heribo ami pranaya bhakata shange. And thus we can pranaya bhakata shange along with the loving devotees. Herabo, we can see Gaudama je shabashtan korela brahmana range, where he performed his brahmana range, his pastimes of pleasure, in the form of the sannyasi. Kali Juge, Juga Dharma, Namera Porochar, Joti lage pita barna chaitanya avatar, as he appeared in the yellowish form to preach the Juga Dharma of the Nam Sankirtan. So Mahaprabhu performed so many wonderful pastimes in Jagannath Puri. And then after 2 years, he was given permission. Eventually, the Bhattacharya, Ramananda Roy, they agreed, okay, on the Vijay Dashami day, they kept giving excuses. Oh, now is the winter time, you cannot travel, North India will be so cold. Oh, now the Dola Yatra is coming, the devotees from Bengal will come, and then the Ratha Yatra is coming, and now is the Chaturmasya. And for 2 years in this way, so many excuses. And then eventually, they agreed, gave permission. And then Mahaprabhu said, go. He said that go to Deshe, more dui shamasrai, janobi, janani, janobi, e dui doyamoy. In go to Deshe, I have 2 shelters. Go to Deshe, hoy, more dui shamasrai, janani, janobi, Sachi Mata and Ma Ganga. Janani, janobi, e dui doyamoy. These 2 are very merciful. So I will go to Vrindavan via Bengal. And then Mahaprabhu begins. Already mentioned so many of the followers in Jagannath Puri also were accompanying Mahaprabhu, except Gadadhar Pandit, whom Mahaprabhu refused to allow permission. So Gadadhar Pandit, he fell unconscious as Mahaprabhu was departing. Mahaprabhu saying, got to Katak, Mahaprabhu saying, this is not good, you are breaking principles of religion, you accepted the Kshetra Sannyas. My Kshetra Sannyas can go to hell. Wherever you are, that is, I'm worshipping Gopinath. No, you cannot come. And then Gadadhar Pandit says, I'm not going with you. What do you mean I cannot come with you? I'm not going with you. I have my own program. I'm going to Navadip to see Sachimata. Well, you do what you do. I'm not going with you. Mahaprabhu says, you go. You give up this. You go. Go back to Puri. So many devotees that accompanied Mahaprabhu. And then as he was traveling again through Navadip, through Bengal Bhumi, of course he didn't return to Mayapur. Shanya shiradharma nahe, shannash koriya, nija janmashtane rohe kotumbalaya. It's not the duty of a sannyasi, having taken sannyas, to remain at home with family members. So Mahaprabhu never returned to Mayapur, but he traveled through Bengal on the western side of Ganga. The western side, there's the other side. He traveled all the way from Panihati. Ganga Shnan, Ganga Pan, drinking the Ganga Jal, bathing in the Ganga. And in this way, fulfilling the cherished desire of Ganga, who was feeling separation, the Sachinandan, who every day was regularly bathing in Navadip Leela. He'd taken sannyas, going to Jagannath Puri. So the lamentation and separation that was being experienced by Ganga was relieved when Sachinandan was traveling on the banks of Ganga, western side, Bengal Bhumi, all the way up. And when he came here to Bidanagar, Koladip, Kuliagram, all of the smartas, all of the atheists, all of the materialists who previously were criticizing Mahaprabhu and his Sankirtan devotees while they were performing the Navadip Leela, they crossed the Ganga to beg forgiveness. And even the great offenders like Gopal Chapal and Devananda Pandit also came and were forgiven of offenses at that time, as Mahaprabhu again toured through Bengal Bhumi. And by this time the crowds that had gathered, the thousands and thousands, hundreds, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of devotees who had come at being attracted, that they would gather the dust from the road where Mahaprabhu's Kamal Charan, where his lotus feet touched the road. The followers would gather the dust. Here, the road was finished. The road was finished. Every broken, finished road, just everything torn up by the thousands and thousands. And by the time Mahaprabhu reached Ramkeli, which was the Rishi Pada, where the Brahmins were performing Vedic sacrifice and worship of the Lord, Ramkeli, and then Mahaprabhu had attracted such a crowd, that the Nawab, he sent his own constable of the police to give a report. This sannyasi, I've heard one sannyasi has come from Bengal, and he's followed by hundreds of thousands of followers. So this is perhaps a civil disobedient movement. Perhaps this is a riot. Perhaps they're going to take over the government. Hundreds of thousands of people following. Yeah. So the police constable, he gives a report. He comes back. He says, "Yeah, the Nawab asks, what does he eat? What are the activities? How does he sleep? What does he do?" And the police constable gives a report that I've seen many sannyasis, many mendicants. You can imagine the kingdom of gold, the capital of Bengal. That's what, gold, capital of Bengal. And therefore it's called Gaudadesh. And we're called Gaudiya Vaishnav, because the capital of Bengal was gold. As you can imagine, the cultural life of both the Pathans, the Mughals, and the Sanatanists, so many extraordinary characters would have been cruising around in gold. And the chief constable police said, "I've never seen. He's not like a sannyasi, he's like a prince who, having received transcendental knowledge from a sage, has taken to the path of renunciation. And his body is like, his elongated figure is golden color of the molten gold. And his eyes are like lotus flowers, and his eyebrows are like Cupid's upturned bow. And his face is like the Chandramukh, like the rising moon. And his neck is like that of a lion, and his shoulders are like that of an elephant. And his body is constantly erupting in symptoms like a jackfruit. His hair is standing on end like a jackfruit. And he has a reddish cloth wrapped around his waist, which is like the color of a rising sun. Udilu Orun Purabhabhage. The Orun cloth around his waist. And he says, but that's nothing. The most extraordinary, you asked about his activity. He says, within 1 hour, at least 100 times he falls down on the ground unconscious. You can do the calculations, those of you who are mathematically inclined. Who are falling down 100 times in 1 hour, that means you're falling down and getting up, and you're falling down again. Kirtan korite prabhu sharva bhab udoy kamba stamba pulagasru gad gada pralay. Kirtan korite prabhu, when he would hear the sound of the kirtan, which would become further enhanced by all of the people who were just coming and joining the kirtan, Mahaprabhu overwhelmed in ecstasy. Kirtan korite prabhu sharva bhab udoy. Sarva bhab udoy. All of the symptoms of love of Godhead would erupt. Sarva bhab udoy. Stamba, kampa, pulak asru, gadgada pralay. Stamba, he would become like a stone, like a pillar. There's just stunned like a pillar. Stamba, kampa. His body would be quivering with love of Godhead, quivering. Prema dala dala shona da anga. Jodane nupura bhaje. Prema dala dala. Quivering. Prema dala dala. Quivering. Shona da anga. His golden limbs. Jodane nupura bhaje. Stamba kampa. He's quivering. Pulak asru. His hair is standing, erupting. With hair standing on end. Pulak asru. Like a jackfruit. Gadgada. He becomes choked up, gadgada, rolling on the ground. And then pralay. Pralay means devastation. What are the symptoms of devastation? I'm not sure. But Mahaprabhu would become devastated in the kirtan. He's falling down on the ground 100 times in 1 hour. And so the king, they did Nawab, even though he destroyed many Hindu temples in Odisha. And the same Nawab who ordered the centuries beat Thakur Haridas, the same person, just by hearing the astonishing features of Sachinandan, Gauchandra, hearing about his form, hearing about his activities, his mind changed. Pashupaki jure, Pashana bitore, Shuni jara gunagata. Pashupaki jure, the Pashupaki jure, the birds and the beasts cry. Pashupaki jure, Pashana bitore, stone melts. Shuni jara gunagata. Shuni jara gun, hearing his qualities. Shuni jara gun, hearing his qualities can melt stone. Hearing his qualities makes the birds and the beasts cry. So even from the lips of the constable of the police, who also was a Pathan, the Nawab's heart changed. And he said, I order this mendicant. He can go wherever he wants. He can say whatever he likes. He can preach whatever he likes. And no one should create any obstacle for him in any way. I declare this. And anyone who does create obstacle for him, I will destroy them and their whole dynasty. And making this declaration, the Nawab then entered into his private apartment. So the kirtan was going on the whole time, but still the ministers, because the Nawab, he was surrounded by many Hindu ministers, like Rupa and Sanatan, Hindu ministers, because they were very intelligent. They were very intelligent. And also, there was no possibility that they would lead a mutiny to take over his position. So he was surrounded by many Hindu ministers. And they were concerned, so they sent a message to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They sent a message with a Brahmin. But that Brahmin, he couldn't give the message to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was so much absorbed in the kirtan, you couldn't even get his attention. So eventually he spoke to some of the associates of Mahaprabhu that better you move on now to the next village. You've done enough Sankirtan here. Message was going around amongst the devotees. And then suddenly Mahaprabhu, feeling that there was some concern amongst the devotees, he stopped the kirtan and he stood and he began to speak. You think that just by desiring that a king can see me? Pantashti koti shata Vatshara Shambargamyo Vayodatapi Manasho Munipungavanam Pantashtu Koti Shata. Koti Shata. Thousands, that's 10,000s of hundreds. That's 10 millions of years. Pantash on this path. Munipungavanam, of trying to speculate to understand the Lord. Avachincha Tattve. Still I remain inconceivable. Avachincha Tattve. Even to the munis and the rishis who for millions of lives are performing the pranayam, controlling the breathing. To say, you think that the king can just come and see me? You think I can be revealed? And then Mahaprabhu says, what is the anxiety? And he made a proclamation, a declaration which is very significant, which we often hear quoted by Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Srila Prabhupada about our movement, but we may not be aware of the circumstances in which this proclamation was made. But at that time, Mahaprabhu stood in front of the devotees and raised his hands. And he said, Pritibite ache joto nagaradi gram shabatra pracha hoibe monam. On this planet, Pritibite ache joto nagaradi gram, as many towns and villages as there are. Sabatra, in all of them, pracha hoibe monam. My holy name will be preached, my holy name will be spread. In this way, Prabhupada stood up in North Bengal and predicted the service and the preaching of A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, his confounded Acharya, who spread the holy name all over the world, unprecedentedly, never was done before, can never be done again, Srila Prabhupada ki. So Mahaprabhu made that statement. So there wasn't, then in the middle of the night, in the middle of the night, Rupa and Sanatan went and visited Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the middle of the night. Why? Because there's a big profile thing. They didn't want to attract more attention. That, look, see, the chief minister, the finance minister, the home secretary are going and talking with this person. This is a big thing. This is heavy political. So in the middle of the night. And Mahaprabhu, he accepted. He had already had relationship with Rupa and Sanatan through correspondence. He had advised them already. And then he initiated them on the spot. Aj hoite tomanam Rup Sanatan danna chada fete tomar danna fete mormon. Today I am giving you the names. Aj hoite tomanam Rup Sanatan. From today onwards you will be known as Rupa and Sanatan. Give up your humility. Your humility is breaking my mind. And when they approached with great humility, Nicha Jati, Nicha Shonge, Potit Odhom, Kubishai Kupe, Goinu, Janom, Nicha Jati, my birth is degraded. Nicha Shongi, I've associated with the degraded people. Prabhupada says they gave up the Brahminical culture for their career, not by choice, but by force. They gave up Nicha Shongi, Potit Odhom, Potit Odom. We are sinful, we are the lowest of man. Potit Odom. Kubishai Kupe. The well of sense enjoyment. Kubishai Kupe. And Kubishai, high class sense enjoyment. High class sense enjoyment. They were on the level of the rulers of Bengal. What facilities they had for enjoying this world. Fame, facility, wealth, control, resources, influence. Chakvatuna Mashesha Mandala Pati Shrenim Sada Tuchabat Buddha Dinagone Shaya Kurunaya Kopinakonta Srito Mandala Pati. They were the rulers of the society. They gave up. Chaktva Sada Tuchabat, spitting it out with disgust. Buddha Dinagone Shako Kurunaya, for the Dinagon, for the fallen conditioned souls. Karunaya, out of mercy for them, Buddha, Kopina Kontashrito, they accepted the simple loincloth of the mendicants. Pande Rupa Shanatano, Raghu Yugo, Shijiva Gopalako. I offer my obeisances to the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. So such humility they approached the Lord with, and the Mahaprabhu blessed them. Very soon you will be delivered, Mahaprabhu. And then, the topic is consultation. Then, without Mahaprabhu, it's not that he was seeking consultation, but Sanatana Goswami, he offered. At that time, he offered a suggestion. He offered, which Mahaprabhu accepted and changed his whole program. Jar Shange Chale, E Lok, Lokakoti, Brindavan Jatrai, E Nahi Pori Poti, to go to Brindavan with Lokakoti, hundreds and thousands of people. Brindavan Jatra Ei Nahi Podi. This is not the proper way to enter Brindavan. In the purport to that, Prabhupada says that it's not appropriate to gather large numbers of men and take them to different places of pilgrimage to extract money from them. Prabhupada says you don't do, he says that. Take large numbers of people on tour in the holy places to collect, to raise funds. He says, no, don't do that. And so Sanatana Goswami said that. That's all he said. It's not appropriate to go to Vrindavan with such a large crowd. I mean, why did he say that? Why did he have to say that? Mahaprabhu, he's the Supreme Lord. He can do it. He can go with as many people as he wants. Why did he say that? It's very interesting. And from such a position of just great humility, that we're completely unqualified, you bestow only by your mercy. But then he offers this advice, spontaneously. It's very interesting. So initially Mahaprabhu, he doesn't respond. He carries on from Ramkeli, he goes to Kanai Natasala. Fortunately, we visited Kanai Natasala just recently. It is quite a journey if you can reach Kanai Natasala. First you have to get to Ramkeli, which is 10 hours from here. And then you get onto the Ganga, it's huge Ganga. That huge, Ma Ganga is huge. It takes 3 hours to cross on the boat. And then you come to Kanai Natasala. There's beautiful little some hillocks on the banks of Ganga, and there's beautiful temple, ISKCON, a beautiful project. And a special Mahaprabhu, special pastimes where Mahaprabhu saw Krishna there, having taken initiation, coming back from Gaya, he saw Krishna there. And several occasions Mahaprabhu visited Kanai Natasala. Again, he's visiting now as he's journeying to Vrindavan. So at Kanai Natasala, Mahaprabhu begins to think, bhalo to kohilo, more eto log shange, log deki, kohibe more ek donge. He begins to think. He says, bhalo to kohilo. It was very good what Sanatan says. Bhalo to kohilo. It was very good what Sanatan said. More eto log shange. If I'm going with so many people, log deki, they see me. Kohibe more ek dongi. I'm an imposter. I'm an imposter. So this again, the opposite. Why Mahaprabhu accepted sannyas? So people would bow down at his feet. Again, we're hearing this by bowing down at one's feet. One becomes obliged. One gets so much mercy by bowing down. Tobe more deki shei doribe choron e mote udharibo shakal bhuban. When they see me, tobe more deki, doribe choron, they will fall down at my feet. E mote udharibo. In this way, I will deliver shakal bhuban. All of the resistant classes, the smartas, the student class, the atheists, still when they see a sannyasi, they bow down. Even, you can imagine 500 years ago, even now, when we were at Kormakshetra, there were sannyasis there, sadhus. And I was chatting with one sadhu. He was Andhra Pradesh sadhu. This is Andhra Pradesh. So I was chatting with him. We've met sadhus from Bengal. We've met sadhus from UP, but I hadn't met sadhus from Andhra Pradesh. So I was chatting. I asked Shami, how long you've been a sannyasi? He said, 40 years. And I said, what do you do? He said, I go from one holy place to another. Amaranath 4 times, he told me. Amaranath 4 times. Kedarnath. So we fell down and prayed, offered prostrate obeisances at his lotus feet because of such renunciation. This is for seeking out the God realization. This is the purpose. And he said to me, may God bless you, may God protect you. Of course, all of the people who were there, it was very impressive for them to see the foreigner show respect to the sadhu. And in this, it attracts them to our movement. So the sannyasi fall down, you fall down, so and show respect. So Mahaprabhu, and if they see me in this way, they will criticize, and then they will be condemned. If they show respect to me, they'll be blessed. If they criticize me, they'll be shanyashira alpa kidra sharbalok gai. Even a little spot on the behavior of a sannyasi, sharbalok gai, everyone will advertise. It was very good what Sanatan has said. So then Mahaprabhu, he's there, and he's already a huge entourage, huge program. He's on the road to Vrindavan. Finish. Let's go back. Abandon this program. Major change in the strategy. Dulab Durgam Shei Nirjan Vrindavan Ekhaki Jaibo Kiba Shange Ekjon. Durlab, which is hard to achieve. Durgam, a solitary place. Durlab, Durgam, Shei Nirjan Vrindavan, that solitary place, Vrindavan. Ekhaki Jaibo, I will go alone. Ekhaki Jaibo, Kiba Shange Ekjon, or I will take one person. And Mahaprabhu decides in this way to take one person with him to Vrindavan. Balabhadra Bhattacharya and Ekhaki Jaibo. Through the forest of Charikand, Mahaprabhu journeys in that way. And so he changes his complete strategy as a result of the consultation with Sanatana Goswami. And then interesting that the way Mahaprabhu, there was a big effort, you can imagine. That was at least 2 months, close to 3 months development. Mahaprabhu leaving Jagannath Puri, all of the devotees, the king, Prataparudra Maharaj, he was constructing storehouses of food at every stop where Mahaprabhu, in advance, he was building storehouses with boga and arrangements to feed the party. He said wherever Sachinandan, wherever he takes bath, will build a column, a memorial column, and I indeed will take my bath there. This was a grand procession with great effort and organization. And 3 months Mahaprabhu going all the way Bengal, Panihati, all the way Koladeep, Kuliyagram. It comes to, no. Mahaprabhu, no. Mahaprabhu decides, no. We will not go. Etaboli. Etaboli, Choranbonde, Gelo Dui John. Rupa and Sanatan left. Prabhu Reshe Gram Hoite Cholite Hoilomon. Mahaprabhu decides to turn around and leave that place. So then Mahaprabhu, he's reflecting. So he turns around and comes back. Of course, that was great fortune again. Mahaprabhu spent time again in Shantipur again, and at that time Rāghunādayaś Goswami came and spent a week. He was a boy. He came and spent a week with Mahaprabhu in Shantipur as he was returning back through Bengal from having accepted the advice of Sanatana Goswami. And then he returned to Puri, and then some short time after, with Balabhadra Bhattacharya and one other assistant, Mahaprabhu leaves for Vrindavan through Jharikand forest. And as he's going through the forest, he's enjoying great happiness. Krishna Kripalu Amar Bahut Kripa Koilo Bon Pote Ani Boroshok Dilo. He's shown great mercy to me because he's brought me through the forest path. And Mahaprabhu was enjoying so much. He'd take bath in the morning in the waterfall, and he would warm himself with a little fire from the wood which was so freely available. And Balabhadra Bhattacharya, he would keep some grain, some rice and dal in a bag, and he would collect the fresh sak shabji which was growing on the forest path and cook that. And Mahaprabhu was eating the forest vegetables, taking bath in the waterfalls, warming himself at the fire. He was enjoying so much. And he began to reflect that Krishna is so kind because he's brought me through the forest. He's given me a chance to come to this solitary forest and enjoy. And he's saying that there was a problem. There was a problem which preceded this. That Bhaktagon Shange Abashai Karibe Milon Bhaktagone Shange Lao Jao Vrindavan. Mahaprabhu was desiring to take the Bengali devotees with him to Vrindavan. Bhaktagone Shange Lao Jabo Vrindavan. Taking the devotees from Bengal with me, I will go to Vrindavan. That was Mahaprabhu's plan. He wanted to do that. Eta Bhabi, thinking like this. Eta Bhabi, go to Deshe Koryalon Gamon. Thinking in this way, I entered into Bengal. Mata Ganga Bhakta Deki Shuki Hoilomon. Seeing Sachimata, seeing Ma Ganga, seeing the devotees, I became happy. But such a crowd had gathered, such an entourage, and this is not the proper way to enter Vrindavan. Sanatan Mukhe Krishna Amar Shikailo. Through the lips of Sanatana Goswami, Krishna taught me a great lesson. Taha Bigna Kore Bon Pot Lai Ailo. And in this way he created an obstacle just so that I could get an opportunity to come through the solitary forest and enjoy this peaceful atmosphere. So in this way, Mahaprabhu, he's just, everything is Krishna's arrangement. The whole project to go to Bengal was to deliver a Rupa and Sanatan, Krishna's arrangement. Hearing from Sanatan, this is not the right way to go to Vrindavan, was Krishna's arrangement. I turned around and now Krishna has kindly given me the opportunity to go on a solitary path through the forest. Just see how merciful Krishna is. So in this way we were discussing some of the aspects of bowing down, offering obeisances, and consulting with others regarding the important decisions in life. Are there any questions? Yes, Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhu, for taking us into Chaitanya Leela. You made a very interesting point about how in the Western world no one likes to offer obeisances. So I'm curious about that, because it's not that the Western world is devoid of religion, there's Christianity and so on, but why is it that they are so reluctant to bow down?
Ah, they're too puffed up. What other reason would be there? They're too puffed up. It goes against the ethics of Western culture. It's too, you don't bow, you don't fall down on the ground like that. Even in Christianity, they don't do that. They do, there's other things they do, but they don't, maybe on one knee. Even in the churches, they have, they're called pew. And there's a little thing, it's like a padding on it, special so that you kneel down. You know? There's a padding on it. But they don't lie down, dandavat pranam. But this is tradition of, since the ancient, since the beginning of creation, Lord Brahma, Swayambhuva Manu, this is Vedic culture. The Astanga Pranati. So it's been lost. This aspect of culture and of dharma has been lost in the West. It's been removed, along with many other, been forgotten and removed. And everything is degraded, everything is reduced, everything becomes polluted in the Kali Yuga. So they don't bow down. I was reflecting, I remember the first time I bowed down, first to the deity in the temple, bowed down, it was Snan Yatra, 1983, Melbourne, Mahaprabhu, bowed down. And then subsequently we become purified, we begin bowing down to Vaishnavas. Bowing down, full dandavats to Vaishnavas, and it's very purifying. Sustasha Rupa Goswami says that Dikshashti Chet Pranati Bicha Bhajantam Ishan. Those who are initiated, Dikshashti Chet Pranati Bicha Bhajantam Isham, and who are seriously worshipping any initiated devotee, Rupa Goswami says you should bow down. Pranati, you should bow down and put your head on the ground.
Thank you. I was remembering the song Bow Down Mister.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Jai Granthad Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shamabeta Go Bhakta Brinda ki jai, Navadip Mayapur Dham ki